Hey, just making a quick video. Just seeing Joe Rogan right there. He's talking about the UBI. He talks a lot about it, giving everyone a universal basic income. He never really fleshes this idea out too much, but basically, everyone would get, like $18,000 or something every year. And he thinks it would, A, reduce a lot of crime, would be really good for people, allow people to explore their passions. I want to counter this a little bit. A, we already have a universal basic income. If you go to a psychiatrist and tell them about some of your, symptoms that you Googled, you pretend you have symptoms, they'll actually qualify you as disabled, and you can get SSDI or SSI from the government, which is about what Joe Rogan said a UBI should be. It's just basically giving that to everyone, and these getting disabled because of like a mental dysfunction. It's actually the fastest growing part of SSDI and SSI. People aren't getting necessarily physically disabled at a higher rate, but it's a much higher rate of being like mentally hurt. Um, and so we do have a UBI for anyone who wants it. Anyone who is smart enough to fail an IQ test or smart enough to pretend they have symptoms can get universal basic income, and there's plenty of stories of people who do it. And then there's also other people, of course, who actually need it, and they also have access to this universal basic income. It's great for them. That might actually be a necessary thing to help people out with. But it's just a lot of people who get on these programs or who retire or who get this universal basic income actually don't live much better lives. If you're just chilling on the couch for your whole life, you're not going to achieve anything, and that's what makes people happy most of the time. Having these achievements they can stand on and say, no, look, I am valuable. They can look in the mirror and they know they're valuable, and they know they've contributed, and they know they've built something. In a lot of ways, humans are kind of like bees. Bees build their nests, ants build their mounds, and humans want to build their houses, they want to build their lives, their families, and they look back on these things, and they really are happy that they're able to achieve these things. And I just want to challenge Joe that A, we already have it, and it doesn't seem like it's working out great. And B, there's this story. Maybe I should just end it with this story. I have a really quick video. Um, it was a story told to me. I'll get into who told me later, but basically, my friend um, had a summer job working for a professor, and she was, of course, in the sciences, and this professor studied bugs. And for this summer, he was studying um, a certain type of butterfly, monarch butterflies, which are very common in Texas. And uh, my friend, she was keeping track of like their cycles, how long they're in their chrysalis for, how long they're in their cocoons for before they hatched. And there was one that was breaking out of its cocoon one day, and it was about to be lunch. And so the professor goes out to lunch, everyone goes out to lunch, and she decides to stay just because she wants to see it. She'd never seen the whole process of a caterpillar being born into a butterfly and the butterfly escaping its chrysalis. um, anyway, so this butterfly is escaping and it's struggling, and it's not really making it, and at one point it stops, and she actually thinks it's dead. And so she grabs her little tools, 'cause they have little tools, and she actually helps to unpeel the chrysalis just a little bit. And she doesn't touch the actual butterfly, and then she does it just a little bit, enough so it doesn't have to struggle to get out, and it actually crawls out. It looks fine, and uh, it just kind of stays there. And about this time, her professor comes back a little bit later. It's been staying there for a while. It looks kind of sick. um, and she talks to the professor, and the professor says, "Oh wait, you helped it out of its cocoon." And my friend says, "Well, yeah, it was struggling. It wasn't gonna make it. Actually, stopped moving for a little bit. I thought it was dead." And the professor says, "Well, here's the thing about butterflies. When they struggle to get out of that cocoon, it actually gets their heart beating extremely fast, and it's extremely tiring, and they have to struggle to get out of that chrysalis. And the thing is with their heart rate beating so fast, it gets their blood pumping. And um, the the issue is that if they don't struggle to get out, and their heart doesn't get that high, their heart rate doesn't get high enough, their blood won't have enough pressure to push itself into the wings once it hatches. And so that's what happened with this. Its wings didn't unfurl properly, and that butterfly will never have another chance to get its heart rate beating that fast again, to get its blood pumping so hard to push itself into the wings, which will then dry out and allow them to fly. It'll help them unfurl and allow them to fly. And that's kind of like humans. Like butterflies need to struggle in order to become who they are, to become successful butterflies. Because if they don't struggle and get their heart rate beating, there's no way for that blood to pump itself. And this butterfly died, of course, right? Because it couldn't fly and it was just a bug at that point. But if you can't get your wings, the butterfly can't get its heart rate beating, the blood pressure will never be high enough to push itself into the wings, which will never be able to unfurl, dry, and allow the former caterpillar to fly away. Same thing with humans. If they don't struggle, if humans don't struggle, if humans don't aren't put through the crucible and forced to become who they are never going to become the people they're meant to be. They're going to stay children forever, and they're not going to be able to handle obstacles, and they're not going to handle the truth, and they're never going to be achieve anything, and they're never going to be happy with themselves. And you see this a lot with people. There's this negative stereotype about people who have trust funds. And they don't work, and they hang out all day, and they don't do anything, and they basically live really, really unfulfilling lives. And that's why if you want to leave your kids a will or something, you want to always put stipulations, but they can't get it until they're much later in life, so they already have to achieve some stuff. But humans are the same way. If they're never forced to overcome and they're never forced to achieve anything, they're never going to become the people they're supposed to be. They're always going to be children, and they're always going to have simplistic views. They're not going to be able to handle the truth or anything important. And it's just something to think about. I want to put this out to Joe Rogan that, like, yeah, it's going to be hard to, create new jobs. There's an infinite number of jobs. And, you'll see that once, automation really starts throwing jobs, the current jobs, out of the workforce, you'll see that people will just, get retrained in something. And there's going to be so much more wealth in society that won't really matter. Someone, let's say truck drivers get displaced and you're a truck driver making 80 grand a year. Well, now you service trucks, and these are AI trucks, of course, and you service them, and you're only making 60 grand a year. But what if your purchasing power, they're going to be so much wealth in society, they're going to have a ton of money, not a ton of money, a ton of things you can buy with your wealth, a ton of things that don't exist right now, because there's so much more wealth once we create AI. That 60 grand you're making is going to feel like 100. Just like, how much money would someone pay in 1950 to have today's healthcare or have today's iPhone? They'd probably pay a lot more than 50 grand. And someone who makes 50 grand has access to a much better car, a much better, house, much better this, much better that. Just something to think about. Humans kind of need to struggle to be happy, to become who they are always meant to be, or really find out who they're supposed to be. On top of that, we'll be okay. The first industrial revolution, the one that happened in 1949 when Marx wrote his famous work, that threw off way more jobs off of the traditional economy. Literally hundreds of people who used to build clothes would get thrown out, over less than a year. When the mechanical loom came about. We're gonna be okay. We faced this before. We'll face it again. AI is not the end. So we'll have other industrial revolutions. And just remember, if people aren't struggling on a regular basis, then you really are missing out. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Please comment, subscribe. I really like to hear what people think. I'm just kind of writing, putting my thoughts out there because I want to, keep track of what I'm thinking of. Little things I think about when I listen to Joe Rogan or Peter Schiff or someone, or read an interesting article. But if anyone has anything to say, I'd love to start a conversation. Anyways, have a great day. Bye.